Mr. Jenkins, how are you, sir? It is 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is March 7th, 2022. We're in the City Hall Council Chambers of 101 South Main Street in Joshua, Texas. And we will dive in and get started to say that we are called to order and announce that we do have a quorum present. And we'll move on to B, which is the public forum. The Planning and Zoning Commission invites citizens to speak on any topic. However, unless that item is specifically noted on this agenda, the Planning and Zoning Commission is required under the Texas Open Meetings Act to limit its response to responding with a statement of specific factual information reciting the city's existing policy or directing the person making the inquiry to visit with city staff about the issue. No commission deliberation is permitted. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. Doesn't look like we have anybody here tonight to speak. All right. Then we'll move on to C, which is to discuss, consider, and possible action on the meeting minutes for February the 7th of 2022 and February the 15th of 2022. Did everybody here have a chance to review the minutes and any questions or concerns? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Okay.
Second it.
I got a second. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. All right. And we're moving on to action letter D, which is to open a public hearing at 6:31. And the public hearing on a request to amend the 2018 future land use map by changing the future land use designation of commercial, office, service, or low density residential on West FM 917 from Santa Fe Street to the city limit line.
The future land use plan was last updated in 2018, and it's obvious that provisions must be made for changing the regulations as conditions change or new conditions arise. Otherwise, zoning will be confined and a detriment to a community instead of an asset. Periodic revision is essential if the ordinance is to establish and maintain a rational land use pattern. There have been recent inquiries from developers about developing parcels of land into residential uses down West FM 917.
Good. And anybody here tonight want to speak on the public hearing?
No. I'm here to answer questions.
Okay. All right. Then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:32. And we'll move on to action letter E, which is discuss, consider, and possible action on the request to amend the 2018 future land use map by changing the future land use designation of commercial, office, service to low density residential on West FM 917 to Santa Fe Street and to the city limit line. Anybody have any questions or everybody get a chance to review the map and the changes in question?
I did.
Okay.
So just to make sure I'm clear, the request is to change it from commercial to low density residential.
That's
make
correct.
sure that's what's being put before the board today.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, back in with 2018 or maybe before then is when it was changed to commercial, I guess, probably with the Chisholm Trail and everything coming up, but we haven't had any activity for commercial properties. So now, like we said, saying just where we're at, changing it back to low density residential.
Changing it back to low density residential.
And I don't know if it was ever that. I'm just saying that's what it's being changed to now.
Okay.
Given the fact that there's been no commercial activity or inquiries to my knowledge about commercial going up there. So.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry about that interruption.
Oh, you're good. Any other concerns or any further discussion needed on?
Aaron, I'd like your opinion on.
Well, the lot sizes that are going down there that have been given the designation of commercial, they're kind of small to even for any type of business to go in, you know, to follow our parking regulations, lot size. I mean, I think we've had more inquiries from developers of wanting to develop residential properties or developments more so than the commercials.
In any of the commercial.
I think my biggest concern with this was, look, I moved from a bedroom community where 98% of our tax revenue came from property tax. We had one grocery store, a McDonald's, and the rest of it was wall to wall, you know, small homes, small lots, basically. And, you know, when the housing crisis hit, you want to know what it looks like when you don't have any business, industrial, or tax base. I mean, it hurt us. I mean, our taxes went through the roof because property values just plummeted. So I always try to make sure that we have a really good balance. And anytime I see small businesses getting taken away from the landscape, especially on what I have to believe is a major thoroughfare for commercial. We might not be seeing it now, but I think we should be looking towards the future that, look, 917, that Chisholm Trail Parkway is going to be it's got to be a retail and you know, I don't want to call them strip malls, but, you know, a good area for those types of businesses anyway.
And as time progresses, we can always change it back to commercial. I mean, it's just not, you know, it's not just okay, now it's going to stay residential forever. But
is there any way that we can implement some sort of like if a developer wants to come in there and say, hey, look, you can start that residential development with a setback or, you know, something reasonable to give a commercial space, like an easement of some shape or form, like I'm thinking of Mountain Valley there by North Joshua, where there's.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't think you can if it's zoned.
Yeah.
There, unless we were to zone it that way, or if they were to come in and say, I'm going to do residential and office or retail in the front, you know, I don't think you can restrict that if it's zoned R1 or low density, whatever's the zoning.
So how do we have that strip there zoned commercial, and you're saying that nobody can develop behind that commercial zone?
correct, because
right now?
behind it, it's zone R1 residential. So it's like just that little top part. I mean, you really can't do anything with commercial on there because you're not going to meet the lot size requirements. You're not going to have enough room for parking. So it should just stay residential because most of the lots down through there have residential buildings on them right now. So.
And to your point, yes, I understand what you're saying, and I envision the same 917
being a commercial corridor.
But the space that's there now is not going to permit that. And I think that was the idea in 2018 was saying, let's make it so that an opportunity. But because of the layout of that area that's still available, I don't think it's feasible to put commercial at this time.
I think it's such a lost opportunity though. I mean, can we be a little bit more creative somehow to, you know, because if we put residential there, there's no way that you're ever going to get that back, you know, and that's, you know, really got to be high value commercial real estate with the traffic flow, just purely looking at that, you know.
And so right now we're just looking to amend the future land use because currently it is zone R1. So we're just looking at the future land use plan because this is the vision that they had whenever this was last amended.
4 or 5 years ago.
They brought it, you know, to commercial, but it is currently zoned residential,
right,
all through there. So, I mean, in the future, you know, if there are some inquiries or if that area does explode into commercial, then we could always change it back.
It's really, I don't like the idea of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you know, when, you know, which we always have these conversations about which comes first, the revenue or the roads, you know, and which comes first is the people and then the whatever commercial wants to come in, you know, so.
Well, to his point, since 2018, nobody's even considered coming down this area for any land that's over there because it's been commercial. This is not a zoning request. This is just a request to change the future.
Right, I understand.
So there's not anybody that's come to zone that's requested yet. Now, I'm not saying it won't happen next week. I don't know that, but.
So I guess give me a scenario where on the current one, are we allowed to speak in specifics of an applicant that's come in and said this? I mean, I guess maybe a little more detail on what that looks like that would necessitate this change.
Bobby?
Yeah, ask your question.
So I was gonna say, I assume this is being asked because someone's come
Sure.
and says, I want some of this land that's zoned commercial.
Absolutely. And just like Aaron said, the particular piece of land that we're looking at is a stretch of land that's going down 917. And as you were saying, this piece of property that's going through there is just a small section. And like you said, we do want a buffer between, we want a nice buffer between commercial and residential, as anybody else does. Because again, most of your tax revenue is generated from commercial use. But this particular piece of property is so small. So in order to get a commercial piece of property, you have X number of parking to put there. So you have to have that in order to meet those pieces. And this doesn't really meet those requirements. So we took and said, hey, what's the best and highest use for this particular piece of property? We found one. And within that is a low density, top property. Again, not high density, low density stuff that would work well within that. Again, as a small business management community, we want to look for what's going to be the biggest and best use for this community, and we feel like we found it. So again, by all means, I would much rather have commercial. I might rather strip center, but I don't feel that's going to work for that particular area. And if I could find a way to make it work, I would be the first person who would do it there.
So, I mean, can we just adjust the land use for this one case, I guess?
For that one part of it.
Yeah.
Well, because then we'll have to do it for every single, so we just thought of doing this as a whole. And if it, in the future, if something comes in that wants to develop as commercial and maybe they buy the back part or back areas, then we could, take that at that time and rezone it to the commercial.
You're not going to have to worry about this because it is a major thoroughfare, Fear Road coming off the tow road. If somebody has a large enough piece of property they can do something with, they're going to make it commercial. They're going to find that avenue to get the best and highest use out of that particular piece of property. Again, this particular piece of property, the way that a little bit of hardship it plays out, the particular piece of project we want to do works well within that. So if somebody comes in, it's listed R1, they haven't figured a way to get to commercial, they're going to come back in and ask for this type of cleanup on the zoning map. So I assure you, somebody, and again, we're going to keep growing, you're going to keep getting stuff come down there, but by stopping it now and hindering growth, that's what happens. We got to have those pebbles inside this pond to create those lanes.
Right. And just try to, I was a small business owner, still sort of kind of am. So,
Believe me, we all want it. And again, Josh was come a long ways and, we're limited to the piece of the property we have and we all know what kind of growth we can take. We want to be careful what we let in. And it gets into a whole other conversation, but like right now, we're just talking about rezoning that one particular piece just because it's such a small piece going into that.
How big is that piece exactly?
It lies on either side of that road, and you've got such a wide 917 running down it anyways. By the time you get to it, you don't go too far in, but it kind of limits you to what you can do to each one of those pieces because you have so much behind it. And like Aaron was saying, now this is R1 now. We're just amending the future. You guys are looking at amending the future use.
Do you think some of the commercial might be hesitant because of the potential whole redesign of 917 with the railroad tracks and all that?
Correct.
I do. Yeah.
So, do they know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go build. I mean, we've got several pieces just as us, and we wouldn't build those particular pieces because, you got to over where we know it's going to land. I mean, we keep talking about how it's going to happen, or take for you the lumberyard, which is just on the 917. Great piece of property, right on a major piece. If they go under, it cuts all our traffic. This particular piece, if it comes under, we're going to be talking about skirting the edge of it. Now, do we get inside of it? Do we have a strip center? I mean, so that piece could sit for who knows when they get ready to build this. But this piece right now would work well with that.
Because it's far enough away from that potential
Okay.
impacts.
That was my next question is, do we know what's going to happen to 917 in the next 5, 10, even 2 years?
We keep that in on this. I wouldn't want to build something that's going to stop it because I would love to see 917 come through there. But, you know, this one's far enough down to where even if they do go over under, it's gonna come out to where it's not gonna be, you know, within that. So again, they haven't made anything definite. They haven't drawn any definite plan, so.
Textile said they're gonna fix it. It's on their books, but that means they've committed to it, but they haven't figured out how to pay for it and when. So
Okay.
they said it's on one of the projects, but I think 917 and 35 is their first project. And then they have others, so, and then COVID hit and all this, because they had a big town hall meeting and all this, so
Okay.
they've identified as a problem, they're gonna fix it. When in our lifetime, we don't know, so.
Does Joshua, I mean, I'm guessing we don't have like a specific one, Eco Devo contact or any economic development. Do we have anything like that or is that you, Aaron?
No,
we have it.
we do have an economic development director.
Okay, I didn't know that. And has the Chamber of Commerce chimed in on this?
I'll go.
So for low density, are we looking at like duplex or are we looking small apartments? I'm just asking the question, or do we even know?
Any kind of a rendering of what we're just going high-end townhomes. is what we're looking at.
High-end townhomes, okay. Okay,
Per our map, low density residential is R1 and R2.
Yes.
Correct. So
that
that's
meets the low density.
from the zoning standpoint, if you want to look up the regulations.
yeah, yeah, I just wanted to, so I can look at that for when it all comes back to us. Make sure we don't run into any extra points of discussion.
Any further discussion or any other questions? If not, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to amend the 2018 future land use map by changing the future land use to designation of commercial office, commercial low density residential on FM 917 from Santa Fe to city limit line.
Okay, second it. We have a second. All right, all those in favor? Were you obviously in favor of that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you down there. All right, very good. It's like it's unanimous, and then that is all we have for tonight. So we will adjourn at 6:47.
That was easy, huh?
Thank you, Mick.